What's up, everybody? This is the Sports League Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got Amanda back on the show as always. Good to have you, Amanda.
Always good to be here.
And we've got a special guest for you guys. Former Detroit Lions, Chicago Bears quarterback, Erik Kramer. Erik, so great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's fun being here.
Yeah, and it's perfect timing. After 3 decades, we just saw the Lions win a playoff game on Sunday over the Rams. And it's perfect timing to have you, Erik Kramer, the last quarterback to win a playoff game with the Lions. Great to have you on the show, and great timing, huh?
It is. It was amazing. I was actually at the game, and
Okay.
you know those little on your computer, those little emoji things where it's got like if it's somebody's birthday or some sort of celebration, right? It's got this like poof of confetti going up in the air. Well, that's what being at that game felt like. I had my head down, and it was on the last series, and I didn't see what happened because the place went nuts. And what had happened was Jared Goff basically knelt down on the ball. It was like the crowd went crazy. I'm like, what did I miss?
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's crazy to think about that it's been so long. The Lions have had great talent. You think about Matthew Stafford, Calvin Johnson, Barry Sanders, Sherman Moore, and to go so long without a playoff win, it's crazy. Do you think it was a curse, or and it's great to see it finally lifted?
It is. I don't know if it was a curse or not, but I think it was an indictment really on the Lions organization as a whole and
Hmm.
how misguided and misdirected they once were and for a long time. And I think now this spells it's kind of an ignition switch got sparked, right? When I think the team and Mrs. Ford Hamp was named chairman, kind of chief decision maker amongst her family, and then right away hired Chris Spielman, and then the search went on for a coach and a head and a general manager, and the two people they landed on, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, could not have
Yeah.
been better. And so to me, it seems like for all of that meandering through the forest for all of those 30 plus years, now it feels to me when you're looking at them, they look like one of the spikes, one of the tips of the diamond.
Hmm.
And so I think this organization, the way it's run, the young roster that and coaching staff that they now have, is poised to kind of be in this seat now for a while, and they're still on the uptick. It's not like the
Mhm.
season's over.
Yeah. Yeah. Big game coming up this weekend. Another home playoff game against Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay. For those of you that don't know, Erik is a former 10-year NFL quarterback. Also played with the Falcons, Lions, Bears, and Chargers. And he has a book out right now called The Ultimate Comeback, and it's available now on Amazon. So make sure and go get that. Um, Go ahead, Amanda. You want to start it out?
Yeah. So, Erik, when your career started, you went undrafted. It took an NFL player strike in '87 for you to get on the field. You were a replacement player for the Falcons. You played in 3 games with them and set their franchise rookie quarterback record versus the Rams with 355 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, what was it like coming in? I mean, you kind of had to kind of backdoor your way into a starting spot there. I mean, what was it like playing with the Rams as an undrafted rookie and leading to them to that, or playing with the Falcons and leading
Yeah.
them to that win over the Rams?
Well, it was gratifying because it was a completely different terminology than what I was used to in college, um, and to different people altogether. And so, yeah, it took some getting acclimated to. We only had 2 weeks to do it, and then we started out weren't successful the first couple of games, one against Pittsburgh and one against the 49ers, and then kind of exploded when the Rams, who, by the way, uh, I think we had one player cross, which was Tim Green, a linebacker. And then the Rams had, by the time we played them, pretty much had their whole roster. And so that was a good feeling to have been part of that.
Yeah,
And
and just a 3-win team that year. So a big, great job to get that win.
1/3 of those
We
were
had
yours.
33% of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, you kind of mentioned how the draft and stuff went for the Lions and a lot of the young talent they had. I mean, we've seen some unprecedented rookie play this year. I mean, CJ Stroud became the youngest quarterback in NFL history to win a playoff game. Puka Nacua set records for most rookie receiving yards, most receptions, and then he just set another record over the weekend in that postseason win or loss for them. Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, first pair of rookie teammates to score 10 or more touchdowns in a season. We loved that Lions draft class. It was my favorite. Alex and I kind of argued about it a little bit. I don't think he saw, Sam Laporta being as good as he's come out.
Right.
I think you preferred the Ravens draft this year, which was also amazing. But do you have any favorite rookies that you've been watching this year, keeping an eye on?
Me personally, I haven't seen as much of CJ Stroud as I would have liked. I did record, I think it was their last, who was the last game? I mean, it wasn't a playoff game, right? When they beat the Colts?
The Colts. Yeah, it was a week 18 to win the division.
Right. Okay. So I've got it recorded. I watched about maybe a quarter of the game. And I did watch a little bit of the playoff game. And and he's from here. So he went to Rancho Cucamonga High School. And
Right.
and so yeah, it's really cool to know a little bit of his story. Don't know the whole thing, but he's had to overcome some adversity in his life as well. And I just love the fact that he seems so poised and focused and good at what it is he does that seems to elude a lot of other players.
And to me, I think confidence is key, especially in the quarterback position, really any position. If you're confident and feeling yourself and go out there, that you give yourself the best chance to be successful. And you had a reputation for that early on when Rodney Peete goes down with an injury in week 9 for that 91 Lions team.
Yeah.
You come in and you earn the nickname Brass because you called an audible on your first possession coming in. What gave you the confidence to be able to do that?
Probably ignorance. And so this was back, I forget what week it was, but we were playing the Colts there in Indianapolis. And I can't remember exact circumstances, but I think we completed what happened was, as I recall, there was, I think there was a safety involved somehow, and I forget, I think it was we punted right to them, and they somehow fumbled the ball when it came down. But prior to that, Rodney had gotten injured, nothing serious, but he wasn't ready to go back in. And so I forget what yard line we took over on, but I think I think I hit Brett Perryman with a pass, and then it was handoff Barry, and I think it was like 3rd down and 1. I didn't know it was 3rd down, but Willie Green, who himself was, I think, a rookie in 1990, and so we had a nice little signal system where he gave me a signal for a fade stop because it was press coverage, man to the inside. And yeah, the result of the play was a touchdown. And I remember coming off the sideline, and the offensive line coach, Jerry Wampler, was kind of chuckling to himself. Said, "What?" He goes, "You take the ball out of Barry Sanders' hands on 3rd down, you could be paying your one-way ticket home right now." So I got over to the bench, and Willie was already sitting there, and I said, "That was 3rd down?" And so that's ignorance. That's sometimes the best policy.
You're
Yeah.
just in the moment, man.
Yeah.
But an
Yeah,
audible
I
on your
guess,
first series.
but kind of like what you mentioned before is that when you play with confidence, confidence is first of all earned. And so when you do feel like you can do pretty much anything, not in a reckless way, but you're confident in what you're doing, not just you, but other people around you, then that leads to, just executing well.
And in this season in particular, we've all season long been calling it the year of the backup quarterback. We've seen Josh Dobbs come in and be successful, Jake Browning in Cincinnati, Joe Flacco, all across the league. And in 91, in your situation, you came in to replace Rodney Peete and lead the Lions on a 6-game winning streak, win the division, and win a playoff game for the first time since 1957. What was it like for you coming in as a backup to with Barry Sanders and that Lions offense and going on that run to end the 1991 season?
Well, it was okay. So it was kind of a, how do I say it, bittersweet in
Mm-hmm.
that, if that's even the right word for it, because earlier uh, in that same uh, winning streak, towards the end of the season, uh, Mike Utley,
Yeah,
our right guard, went down in a game against the Rams, and I didn't know what happened. And as it turned out, Mike to this day is still paralyzed from that accident. And
great.
he went to go. I forget the name of the player from the Rams, but somebody, the defensive lineman, jumped up and tried to, you know, bat the ball down, and Mike took a dive, not dive, but Mike went to cut his legs out, and somehow missed, but what hit was the top of his head against the turf. And looking back at the video, it didn't look like much of anything. And yet here he is, all these years later, still paralyzed. And I still very much in contact with him and his wife Danny, and he's just the same guy today that he was back then, despite I'll bet you he's nearly died half a dozen times just in the
Wow.
last 6 or 7 years from infections and whatnot. But he's just an inspiration, and he was that year. And so
Yeah.
that, I don't want to call it a rallying cry, but it was more of an emotional togetherness that I would say we
Mm-hmm.
played with. And so yeah, that's that was part of that season. And I think we had a good young team. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to apologize for the fact that the roster was pretty much loaded, uh, in not every position, but in most.
Mm-hmm.
And having it all come together was, very satisfying.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredible run. Go ahead, Amanda.
So, that season, I mean, you proved some of these nicknames that you've gotten. I mean, they called you brass balls for a while. We've seen some, some plays out of you that would, attest to that. I mean, leading the Lions on a 6-game win streak, defeating the Cowboys in the Silverdome. And I mean, 38-6, speaking of a loaded roster, the Cowboys roster wasn't anything to scoff at either. I mean, Emmett, Irving, Aikman, Jimmy Johnson. What do
Right.
you remember about that game in particular
Well,
and
they
the
won the Super
atmosphere
Bowl
in
the
the
next
Silverdome?
year, so they're pretty good too.
Yeah.
But I think that um, just leading up to that, even playoff game included, it seemed like we found a bunch of ways to win, and it wasn't always Barry Sanders doing his magic, which he clearly did a lot. But we had a pretty good passing game too. We had a really good defense. We had an unbelievable special teams, and and so yeah, like I said, it was just a very good group of you know coaches, kind of, especially defensively and special teams wise. Offensively, it was kind of a revolving door at times of coaches getting hired and fired. Um,
Mhm.
but we certainly found a way to make the most of it.
It was
Yeah.
crazy. I went back and watched that game recently, and the game plan was like, come out. You had the two leading rushers in the league, Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders. And the Lions' game plan, they come out and it's just throw, throw, throw. And it's like Barry had probably like 20 yards in the going into the fourth quarter, and you were slinging it all over the field, outplaying the Cowboys. It was crazy. And then Barry goes for that big home run touchdown there in the fourth quarter. But the game plan was interesting. Did you know it was going to be pass first in that game?
Yeah, because they had run, their defense was, it's a very conventional defense. It was basically cover 4, which a lot of teams run. And it's basically, it's a 7-man box and you've got 4 deep, meaning coverage wise, you're taking away all the seam throws. And it's a matchup zone. So it's depending on how the routes are run, it could turn into man covered as well. But to run the ball, whatever side you declare you're going to run the ball, they get an 8th guy in the box because they're going to roll that safety down.
Yeah.
And so their game plan was to take away Barrett. You could see that just prior to it wasn't even that game in particular. It was just that was their defense.
Yeah.
And so going in, they obviously gave up a lot, to do that. And so, that was and who was I? So that just goes to show you that, if you can't, in preparing for people, you can't make it personal. You gotta, in some way be able to adjust with what's happening, because oftentimes your plans after a few series fall apart. So you can't have like a backup plan. You got to have another plan prior to that ever happening. So anyway, that was my impression of that day, was that it was just very easy to execute, because the offensive line did a great job. Receivers were getting open. In fact, the guy who missed the first pass was Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Good thing you guys had other plans. So, I mean, you said you were at the game this weekend. That was their first playoff win since yours. And yours, that game, I mean, that was the first Lions playoff win at that time since 57. So it seems like a three-decade gap between playoff wins is kind of normal here. Did you and Goff get to sit down and chat about that feeling, breaking the 30-year curse together?
No, I've never met Jared yet, and hopefully I'm going to be back there this weekend too.
Okay.
And hopefully that happens, because I'd love to meet him and Coach and Dan Campbell and so anyway, that's I would like that, and I would like to congratulate him, because I think
I mean, nobody else understands how he's feeling better than you right now. I mean,
well, here's what nobody knows how he's feeling.
Yeah, true.
Because here's why. Because when the Rams went to the Super Bowl with him, there wasn't 2 reasons they lost. There was one, which was him.
Yeah.
And then he was kind of cast off. And then now, it wasn't like he wasn't good before, but he's gotten that much better now. And then what really sealed it for me was, okay, everybody's patting him on the back, and deservedly so. And then he hits about a 4-game skid late in the season. And those same people were like, oh, maybe he's not what we thought he was. Okay, well, here's Jared Goff, is that he had the resilience when all those very same people that were patting him on the back were now the ones hitting him in the back. And he just stayed true to who he is and what he does, and battled through it. And we've seen now he along with Matthew Stafford played a near flawless game.
Yeah.
And so, in the end, he did his part, but he's done his part for more times than not, like a lot more times than not this year. And that's why I'm just in love with his story.
We had Hugh Jackson on earlier in the season, and we talked about how rare it is for a trade to work out better for both teams and both players. I mean, that's the perfect switch. Like him under Dan Campbell. I mean, Dan Campbell's another guy. He might steal your nickname. I mean, brass balls. That guy is, man, some of his calls, and Alex and I will go in on him sometimes because they've lost games by not taking a field goal and then losing by 2 points. And we're like, just kick the field goal. Like, but I mean, his play style for Jared Goff, I mean, obviously it's working. They're in the postseason.
It is. And I think what's really key to Dan Campbell, one of the keys that I've noticed, and I haven't met him either, like I said, but what I've noticed is that he will believe in you and is loyal to you, and that in itself um, makes you want to work that much harder to play, not just for yourself, but for him. And the culture he's created is you're not just playing for yourself, you're playing for all of us. And I'm
Hmm.
coaching not just for myself, I'm coaching for this organization, which includes you too. And I think he's an inspirational person like that. And you don't fall, in my experience, you don't come across many like that.
Yeah.
Some of his pregame speeches get me fired up. Like, I'm
That,
ready to go play.
I love it. Exactly. And like I said, that is an uncommon person, because not everybody's like that.
and I like the way they're built too, with a lot of former players on the coaching staff. Chris Spielman in the front office, Dan Campbell, a former Lion head coach. It's a cool story when it works out that way, and they can come back and end that playoff drought, right? So.
Yeah. Well, I remember calling Chris last year, um, early in the year, and they were
Hmm.
probably 1 in, I don't know, 3 or so on the season.
Hmm.
And you could see though they were playing well. So I'm
Yeah.
like, what is going on here? Because that I hadn't seen that in a long time. Like,
Hmm.
just forget the record. And he's
Yeah.
like, dude, this coaching staff is ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're that good.
Yeah.
And so as he basically pointed out, when something's going to turn around. It's
Hmm.
unavoidable. And
Yeah.
so obviously their second half of the season did. And no greater quote ever, probably in history, Amanda, was when they went to play the Packers, knowing they're out of the playoffs. And whoever it was, a sideline reporter, was saying, okay, well, what's your motivation to win today? And he goes, well, they're not going. So, I mean, that's with no hesitation.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the first, like, that's how they play every week. I don't care who they're playing or where they're playing.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that quote pissed me off a little bit, but like, you gotta have respect for it. Like, oh, cut them out. Like, oh, if we can't go, they can't go. Like, yeah, like, as mad as it can make you, like, you have to have respect for that type of mindset.
Yeah,
That's
that's what
what
you'd
I'm saying.
want.
And that mindset, it carries over, it doesn't just stay in the locker room. It's how you draft. It's how you acquire players.
Hmm.
It's how you mold and teach them once they get there. And it's how you get players to play for you. Like I said, it doesn't matter. That day happened to be in Green Bay. It could have just as easily been Arizona. It could have been, but
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It's the mindset that you go through the week, the off season, the game itself. And I think, like we've talked about since we started this, was that there's something special about this team.
Yeah, and that rookie class this year has been so impactful in year one. We talk about Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, Brian Branch on the defensive side of the ball, Jack Campbell.
Yeah,
So they've done an excellent job of building that team and getting output from the young guys for sure.
I agree with you. And I think, just to switch teams here for a minute, that I think that the Bears
Yes.
are next year's Bears are this year's Lions.
Hmm.
They're going to be that good. I think the
Yeah.
coaching staff, at least defensively, was A+. I think the decisions that they've made as acquiring players, whether it be through the draft, free agency, or a mid-season trade for
Hmm.
uh,
Sweat.
Montez Sweat. I
Yeah.
mean, I love how Ryan Poles has basically was himself on the hot seat this year. Uh,
Hmm.
Eberflus was on a hot seat all the way up until a few days ago, and
Yeah.
and that they obviously have a direction in mind they want to go, and I'm seeing that this is like Detroit Lions Part 2, because we're between the time they've played their last game this year and the time they play their first game next year, a lot of good things are going to happen. If you
Yeah. And do you?
and as good as they were last year in their offseason, they're an even, like, they did have the number 1 overall pick, and they got a great player in DJ Moore, but
Hmm.
they're going to get more great players with this year's #1 pick because
Are
it's
you
the people behind them that all want a quarterback.
are you confident that that's what they're gonna do and not stay at one and take a quarterback like Caleb Williams? I want them to keep Justin Fields, build around him, potentially draft someone like Marvin Harrison,
Yep.
to give him those weapons and build around Fields. We've seen a lot of special from Justin Fields. His potential is sky high. Do you trust Poles to do that, or do you think there's a chance they reset and go get Caleb Williams?
Here's my hope that
Yeah.
they do neither of those two options.
Hmm.
My hope is that they don't keep Justin Fields. My hope is that they trade him because I think they could get a solid #2 pick for him.
Okay.
I don't think they've seen. Justin Fields hasn't sold me that he can do this
Hmm.
at a high level.
Consistently.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And but I think that #1 overall pick would be so much more valuable to someone else.
Yeah.
The Bears, they have Tyson Bagent. They have a guy that can play.
Hmm.
Nobody thinks of him as a starter mistakenly, and
Hmm.
they could go out and keep trading back. They could end up with 3 #1 picks
Yeah.
and end up and you name a quarterback who can't do it, like Bo Nix. Would you be unhappy with that? If you had
Yeah.
not only Bo Nix, but now you've got an elite left tackle, you've
Yeah.
got an elite edge rusher, you've probably made now a cap casualty trade for a really good center, and we're not even talking the draft yet.
Yeah.
And so that's my point, is like you with because Justin Fields to me played himself into a #2 pick
Hmm.
and a high one at that,
Yeah.
because the Falcons aren't far behind in the draft. And what is it? New England's right behind, all
Yep.
needing quarterback,
Commanders. Yep.
and all believing, who knows? I mean, that could Justin Fields be their guy? You clearly think he could be, and so
Hmm.
some other team might believe that too, maybe more than one. And
Yeah.
and so anyway, that's I think the Rams, the Bears, I think. Do I trust Ryan Poles to make the right decisions? Absolutely. The guy
Hmm.
is a researchaholic in a good way.
Hmm.
And, you know, he's made, if you look at if I look at the moves that he's made, I'd say he's batting about 85, 90%. And
Hmm.
that's pretty damn good.
Yeah. And similar to how the Lions were built, it's through the trenches on both sides of the ball, O line and D line. If you can establish that, that's where the game is always won. Like Amanda's Packers, pushing the Cowboys defense around and running all over them and protecting Jordan Love. It starts at the trenches.
100%. When's the last time the Green Bay Packers drafted a first rounder as a wide receiver?
Yeah,
Ever?
they
And
don't do
we had some questions about that because both Alex and I early this season thought we needed a veteran receiver to kind of get in and show the boys how to play. I mean, they're such a young offense. They could use some veteran help, but I mean, gotta go eat our words on that one because I mean,
it.
this late season run for the Packers. And I said on almost every episode that like I didn't have any expectations coming into this season. Like, did I think Jordan Love was going to be the next Hall of Fame MVP Packers quarterback? Maybe, but probably not, because what team gets 3 back to back? Like, you can't go from
Yeah,
Favre
Yeah.
to Rodgers to, another MVP quarterback. Like,
Yeah.
it's insane. I mean, he's just statistically the hottest quarterback in the NFL right now. I mean, he and CJ Stroud both had passer ratings just shy of perfect, 157.2 for both of them. I mean, that's amazing for your first postseason appearance. So
Agreed.
I absolutely agree with you about, kind of building up the team and finishing out some of these exterior roles instead of focusing on the quarterback. And I'm intrigued what you said about trading Justin Fields because I think he has a lot of potential. And Alex and I both like him, but if the team and the coaching staff isn't meshing with him, I think he deserves a shot somewhere else. I mean, look at Baker Mayfield. I always liked him. I loved him when they drafted him. I thought that was a great pick by Hugh Jackson, #1 overall. But he didn't mesh well there. He didn't fit well. Cleveland didn't use him. Carolina barely even looked his direction when he was on their roster. But now, he just put up some insane numbers for Tampa Bay, and they're in the postseason. They're going into the divisional round. So I think having potential and being in the right place for that potential to be met are very different things.
Fit is everything.
I agree with you. And everything you just mentioned, Amanda, I believe is true. And so, for instance, with the Bears, okay, they drafted a guy named Braxton Jones last year as a 5th-round pick. He struggled mightily, like as a left tackle, huge.
Yeah.
But the guy can run block, and so he developed a better pass protection this year. He's not great, but he's really good. That's why I would trade the #1 pick, because that doesn't mean I would use that #1 pick to get elite left tackle. I don't know where you draft him, but you do draft him.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is, I love the fact that Justin Fields played well enough for other teams to get excited about him. I was fearful that they wouldn't. And so with a 2nd-round pick, who knows who that guy is? Maybe that guy could be, who knows? Maybe that's your quarterback. I don't know.
Yeah. You look at like Brock Purdy and guys like that. Yeah.
Sure. There's a 7th-round pick.
There's
Hall of Fame guys that were,
all over
the place.
Yeah.
So my point is that there's so much, like Braxton Jones would be a great guy to be. You remember how when the Bears put William Perry in the backfield? Okay. Where do you think they got that idea?
Not sure.
From the 49ers, the year before, using Guy McIntyre.
Okay.
So obviously it's something Trent Williams has done this year. But that could be Braxton Jones in a heartbeat.
Okay.
And he's a good athlete. He could be a great swing tackle, probably the best swing tackle in the league. And DJ Moore. And to me, these are the reasons why Luke Getsy got fired. This is part of the reason. Because DJ Moore is Deebo Samuel waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And when you draft players these days, you're looking for more that they can do that's not just a traditional position, meaning Christian McCaffrey. So you got a guy that can win carrying the ball. You got a guy that can win against any DB in the league.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about how good the San Francisco 49ers are before my Packers go to San Francisco and play them, though.
I'm just saying, as a concept
They're
of a
so
general
good.
manager, these are the kind of players you want to draft. And this is what I see the Bears doing. A Roshan Johnson, who got drafted as a backup running back, Bijan Robinson at Texas. Awesome. That guy could be that guy.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think Brian Poles is like, Luke Getsy probably never should have gotten that job. Ever.
I agree.
And okay, so sometimes it's you got to cut bait, and they did. And so now to me, of the people that they've interviewed, it'd be a no-brainer who I'd go after, Clint Kubiak.
Yeah.
Because that's him. Like, the guy knows how to make use of. He knows how to take what was once Mike Shanahan's offense with the Broncos and adapt it to what's going on today. It's still the same wide zone running scheme, and it's still the same passing game, but it evolves over time to now you can utilize not one-dimensional players, but 2 or 3-dimensional players, and that's what the offense. That's the offense the Bears want to run. It's the kind of defense they want to run, and they're moving in those directions.
I'll push back on one. This is what I want. Not, we both want to see the Bears successful, and it's crazy to me. You think about it. in 1995, you threw as the Bears quarterback. You threw for 3,800 yards, 29 touchdowns. Those are still the Bears records in
Right.
all the way till now. And it's crazy to me. I want to keep Justin Fields. I think he is capable of that. And like you said, the Falcons see it, the Patriots see it. He's capable of being that guy. And so if we can build the trenches in front of him,
Hmm.
get him another receiver to go with DJ Moore, like a Marvin Harrison or a Malik Neighbors,
Yep.
then I think that he could take off. And the team around him isn't that far off. But, not anything against you. I would love to see that record broken at some point. What do you think about that? It's crazy that your records are still standing there in Chicago.
Well, I agree with you on a couple matters. That,
Yeah,
hey, you're right. That is a record that should have been broken long ago. And if Justin Fields is the guy to do it, great. If
yeah,
somebody else, great. I'm
somewhat, yeah.
just saying, like, you're right. I don't think this team is that far off. And if
Hmm.
Justin Fields is the guy that stays, super. I just think those draft picks
Yeah,
that
you
by
have to hit on
trading
those.
him and what you could acquire for that first round pick, it's
Yep.
almost like this is never going to happen again.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And to have it happen 2 years in a row,
Yeah,
um, and like I said, Ryan Poles is he's not frivolous. Just because they
hmm,
have the largest cap space doesn't mean you go all spend it. And
hmm,
you spend it judiciously based on who's out there.
yeah,
And so it's not you don't just first dismantle a team and then, oh, you're going to the Super Bowl. Um, they're building it. Like, I remember this year going back to the alumni game, which now is always going to be the first game of the year.
hmm,
And him getting up there talking about, it was a dinner the night before. And he said, um, that, we're not just building for this year, we're building for the long term.
yeah,
And and you see, I mean, what he says is true.
hmm,
And it during that time where he's rebuilding, he's on the hot seat.
yeah,
And so is the head coach, and so is the quarterback, and
yeah,
everybody. And they
yeah,
basically fired two coaches during that time.
yeah,
And it's come under question, is Matt Eberflus the guy to even make the decisions on who to hire as coaches?
hmm,
And I don't know the answer to that, but I know defensively he can coach and
yeah,
has gotten, good coaches. Now, uh, I'm not so sure. Like, everything they do between Eberflus, and I could be wrong, but it seems that everything they do between Eberflus and Ryan Poles is some sort of collaboration. And and they've both been on very successful programs,
hmm,
where they've come from. And so I think that this is going to get worked out offensively, defensively, special teams, and so forth. And I think you're going to see this team come together just in the fashion that you mentioned, with or without uh, Justin Fields.
yeah. If he hit on the draft picks and make the right decisions, it's a big offseason. It's a key offseason, and so I hope so. I agree with you. We're not far off. We got to get you out of here shortly. Me and I'm picking the Ravens to win it all. Lamar Jackson's really impressed me. I'm a big Roquan Smith fan. I was mad when the Bears traded him, so that's my AFC team is the Ravens.
All right.
Amanda, who's your team to win the Super Bowl?
So, early in the season, I was, San Francisco Ravens rematch. And for, up until the last 2 weeks, I was on board with that. But now the Packers are making a run and the Texans look really good. And something about CJ Stroud and Jordan Love's passer rating being the same to the decimal, 157.2, makes
It's
me feel
crazy.
like there's some superstitious, like we're gonna have the youngest quarterback and the youngest team meet in the Super Bowl kind of. And I mean, I I think there's maybe a 20% chance the Packers go into San Francisco and win this weekend. So, I might be jumping off my San Francisco Ravens pick there.
What do you think, Eric? Who you got winning the whole thing?
Okay, let me help you a little bit, Amanda. First of all, um, nobody gave the Packers a chance
I know.
Yeah,
to beat Dallas.
yeah.
Nobody.
It's insane.
And so they not only won, they kicked the living hell out of Dallas.
It was a spanking. It was
So,
beautiful.
so I actually give Green Bay a pretty good chance to beat the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco.
I
It'll be
worry
fun.
about the fact that Green Bay's offense is kind of a watered down younger version of the 49ers offense. So they know exactly what to do. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, like you said, going after
Dallas knew
Sanders.
exactly what to do and couldn't stop
They
it.
couldn't
But
do nothing.
Francisco might know what to do and can't stop it.
I
Yeah.
hope so. I mean, but
San Francisco's
AT&T
gotten
is
smashed on a couple of occasions this year too.
well, that's true.
So anyway, let me get back to my whole
Okay.
thing.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Shut up.
I think Green Bay is going to beat the 49ers. And
Okay.
I think 100% the Lions are going to beat the Buccaneers,
Mm-hmm.
which leads me to my next point, which is the Lions are actually going to host the NFC Championship game.
That'd be crazy.
And so on the AFC side, I think this could be the Bills' chance this year to beat finally Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Yep.
They've kind of been teetering on mediocrity most of the
Fingers
time.
crossed, man.
Yeah,
And
go
then-
Bills.
And then like you, I think the Ravens are headed for the Super Bowl or at least the AFC Championship game. So I think those are the four teams right there. And who gets in? I mean, wouldn't this be great if the Lions did? I mean,
Yeah,
come
I
on.
know.
They've
Lions
never,
Bills would be awesome.
they've
Lions
never
Bills would be
sniffed
great.
a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I think that they're capable of doing this. And I think the Ravens most likely will be the AFC representative in the Super Bowl. And so
Yeah.
who wins the Super Bowl, we'll have to wait and find out. But I think those are the two teams that will be in it.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait. We got to get you out of here, but thanks so much. It was an incredible honor having you on the show. You had a great football career, and you're welcome back anytime. Thanks everybody for watching, and don't forget, go buy the Ultimate Comeback book on Amazon today. Thanks so much, Erik.
Okay.
Thank you, Erik.
appreciate
It was great.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great week, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and peace out.